We're going to go ahead and call our budget workshop to order. Go ahead and take roll call, please.
Councilperson Paris.
Here.
Councilperson Maples.
Here.
Councilperson Hill. Here. Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Councilperson Gustavus.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect, 7 are here.
This is just not my freaking day.
Well, we have an hour to talk about the budget before it's the council meeting. I don't know, Heather, if you want to talk, or does anybody send you an email?
I had 2 emails, one to add, they're both to edit. If you want to go to page 33. So add a line for a transfer out to the homeless fund of $50,000.
Can't get my
Where are
pen.
you at? Sorry. A little bit of mystery.
Page 33.
Yeah. Are you under capital?
Yes.
Under which one? 013?
Yes.
Transfer out the 230 fund?
To the homeless fund that needs to still be set up. I don't have a fund number yet.
Okay. This is an addition. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. What'd you say, 50?
50.
Okay.
And then the next page for Oak Park, under the General Administration and Allocated NBH section, Department number 301, is to increase the Oak Park by $15,000, so it would bring it to $40,000. On the last page would totals for edit. Brings that to $2,329,892.
What was the change in the Oak Park one to what?
40,000. 40.
$2,329,892.
Yes.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm trying to get one more time.
$2,329,892. Those are the 2 requests I've gotten.
Mr. Paris, was that your request for the Oak Park? Or?
Yes, it was.
Okay, is that enough to do what you need to do?
Well, I'm a little confused because there's 10 that we did originally that Kelly did.
10's in the motor vehicle department.
So between 10 and now, yeah.
That's 50.
That gives us a good start. From my understanding, I talked to Keith Ingram, he's the Oak Park Services. I've had a couple conversations with him, and he basically over the years feels like the city will say we're going to help and then back off for whatever reason. And I'm just learning all this, so I don't know if that's true or not. You all can tell
We
me.
didn't back off.
Okay.
Matter of fact, we added the lines. Nobody has come and made any other requests to us.
Okay. But he feels like that they could offer possibly supplies where we could offer the labor and work together that way. And I just feel like I'm hoping to bring everyone together on this because there is a problem. I mean, that's the main problem in District 3 is drainage. And they know they can make headways. There's 3 bad areas. I sent everyone pictures of the 3 worst areas. And, I feel like this is a great start to, make a difference. And we'll see what happens after that. Hopefully it'll make a big difference.
Well, if everybody remembers, when Callie proposed it, I met with Callie. Part of that conservancy falls into my district as well. When I first started all this mess, I didn't even know what that was, never being in that conservancy district. And we put the $10,000 in with the expectation even that we're going to, over time, we need to increase that because Oak Park and Capitol Hills, and then I guess a little bit of a fringe of other places. I walked Capitol Hills this week, and all along Lake of St. Creek and on Assembly, that's what every one of those people had to say was like, the water stands in the road, it's this terrible situation, and it's just kind of been forgotten. So I'm all for increasing that. In fact, I've been telling people I was going to advocate for an increase of it, and that's where we kind of started. And that's, I don't know the history of it beyond that, but that's where we're at anyway.
I'm fine with the increase, but I will let you know we've always had that agreement. We've actually provided quite a bit of even we let them on occasion with equipment too. Honestly don't think the ball's dropped at our end. But I think now we're in good faith doing this, and I think a lot of us are getting done now.
I sure hope so.
Keep pushing.
Is there any other questions or requests about the budget?
Well, somebody's going to jump in, I will. There was some discussion, private discussion about some of the budget and not including any new firemen for next year. We are hiring 6 as of July, I think. But the goal is to steadily increase staffing, at least for a goal of adding another apparatus online full-time. And that would ideally be 4 people, could be 3 people if it's going to be an engine. I think it'd be 3 people, but having the capacity to staff it at 4 to give some buffer for sick days and overtime and that sort of thing, I think is a long-term goal. And I very much want to advocate that we continue to push that way, because I think that our District 4, which is out towards River Ridge, is highly underserved. They see a lot of medical runs, a lot of industrial accidents, a lot of car accidents out in District 4, and that truck stays probably busier than... Joe, would you say it's one of the busier houses? I think it's definitely one of the busier houses, but our guys run with them because that's the district of the city that company I work for, runs with. We run in that area, so I see how often they are getting called out, and I know that it's providing, or it's causing a gap of coverage for our residents when they're out on a car accident on 62 because Amazon traffic is up for the season, or there's an industrial accident and somebody's, gets hurt on the workplace at one of these job sites. We don't want those things to happen, but they do happen. And when they happen, our responders are there tending to that, and it provides for a gap of service for people who are out in Whispering Oaks. Their next fire truck is coming from either Allison Lane or maybe even District 3, which would be Hamburg Pike. And I think it's something we really need to be paying attention to. Met with Joe Hurt with the fire union, a couple other council members, Mr. White, Mr. Hawkins, and Heather. We sat down earlier today and looked at some of the numbers to see where we could maybe squeeze some things to do another 6 like we did this year. We're looking at about $500,000, and the budget is very tight. We did not come away from that meeting with a good grasp of how we would accomplish that, but I don't know if we need to. I don't know that I can advocate for 6 because I don't know where 6 is going to come from in this budget. But moving something, providing for something to move the ball forward inch by inch, I think is important. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or suggestions or what.
I think we need to do the homework because a lot of the examples that you just gave, when you deal with them roundabouts, that ties them up tremendously. And then with the new construction between the homes, and of course now we've got Ellensworth that's going to be built out, 500-some homes, but also the new construction on these homes, and then all that's being built out in River Ridge. We all know response time where seconds count. So we're going to have to roll up our sleeves because there's very little wiggle room in this budget. We might have to really weigh on the other employee requests too.
I just think that having a goose egg, 0 added hires for 2020 is, it slows us way down on reaching that goal of that added apparatus. Even one or 2 at the minimum would be, I think, beneficial. But like I said, I'm not sure we came away with a good, solid plan on how we're going to get there. And we've got to have, if we're going to do that for this budget, we've got to have all that ironed out by the 12th to have it come out in the packet and ready for us on the 16th. So
it would seem we need to ask the administration where they want to bring this money from. It's their budget.
yeah.
And so, I would say we say, look, the request is for for 6. Actually, the request was for 3 last year, and the chief did not hire until halfway through the year, and he hired 6 because he had money for 3 for the full year. And so the way I look at it, we hired, in theory, last year we were going to get 3, we agreed to that, and we were going to get 3 this year, but we got them all at the end of last year. So, which is fine, I'm sure they're being used. But I would just say that the general fund has $54,000 unspent in the revenue versus expenses, not what's in the bank. And I think rather than us trying to change, we've done it different ways in the past, but the last few years it's kind of like, no, it's the mayor's budget, and I think he needs to be involved, or his administration should be involved.
And keep in mind, these are estimated revenues. So we get circuit breakers back and our certified AV. This is all, we're all going by estimation.
Sure.
I think too, we need to probably have a conversation on the 2 asks for the police. Kind of our last one, kind of like that's left up in the air, what the need was for just those 2.
I thought it was, I wrote down here 5 new employees, 2 police, 2 parks, and 1 HR.
Yes.
So 3 questions, right? 5 new.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may want to switch
But
those
the other
up.
ones were explained, but I don't really know, there were some questions about the 2 new police. Not saying they're not needed, we don't know where they're needed, but based on some conversations that Nathan brought to the table, last go around, probably need some clarification.
I had talked to the chief of police, and I've got much more clarity on
Good.
that.
I thought I saw a video that they're real excited about getting 2 more police on board for being able to be proactive on things.
Yes, and they're not what I was told was they're not going to have 3 in Boston, just 1.
Oh.
Oh, good.
Which I was told something else earlier, so I feel different about it. I'm going.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it's not causing more overtime by pulling personnel, and the person, the officer, I'm not even sure who it is, doesn't matter, is going to school part-time and is working weekends and different, is working. So yeah, I've had my questions answered.
A lot of the police department, a lot of the capital expenditures for the police department have been shifted to Lloyd, because I kind of looked at that to see if there was any room to move more of those capital expenditures to Lloyd from public safety so that we could free up money to add a couple others. And there's some room to shift some more things in the fire department, but Lloyd only has about $120,000 left that's going to be unbudgeted for next year. And that's how this year we've spent, $240,000 that was unbudgeted. We talked about radios that we thought were budgeted that were not, and several other kind of large ticket items. It's tough to say that we want to spend that money all the way down, but I just wanted to bring it up for discussion in case there was something that somebody else saw, or there was a suggestion, or if there was a thought that maybe we could change a priority somewhere. We talked about the other new employees that are coming on next year, that are being requested for next year. The 2 parks employees are going to be paid out of Parks Fund. That's not coming out of the general. And then what was it? An HR person and
2 police.
2 police. The 2 police would.
I thought there was a shift, so Edit was helping out with parks.
Edit is helping out with parks, yes. But I don't think we're going to use edit funds for firefighters either yet. That's not typically been the.
When I look from a historic perspective, it's been great. The Lowit and Edit has been growing so much, and our payrolls have grown so much, and that amount, isn't like our property taxes where they're really capped. So it's been great, but it can go the other way too. And there's been years, it goes back a while, but there's years where it can go the other way, and there won't be any growth or even a decrease. I'd always, be questioning how far we want to go into operating expenses in edit and low it.
Well, I'm leery to say anything because I don't have a solution, but I do know that the 6th district, you know, and I know everybody's got a different set of facts that they kind of want to choose to work with and get going, but all I know is that at the end of the day, that district and the whole northern part of Jeffersonville needs another apparatus. When River Ridge is in full swing, 20,000 people move into the north end of the city, and it's serviced by a firehouse and a apparatus. And when they have to go on a run, which is every day to some man who has a chest pain in Amazon, now we're coming from 12 minutes away. And that happened in Whispering Oaks just not too long ago. And it's just, as we grow out there, we have to put this at a priority. And maybe I'm going to, you know, I don't think, I'm not very hopeful that I can nickel and dime my way through this packet and find $500,000. But this needs to become a priority. And in the end, we can argue with the mayor, and we could say, well, you need to find it. Well, he's going to just say, I turned in the budget I want, but now you guys get to pass, you get to do what you want. And if it's not now, it needs to be soon that these extra firemen get put out there. Because that is, it's not a matter of if something horrible is going to happen because of this circumstance. It's a matter of when, and are we going to be proactive enough to stop that from happening before it does. So, I mean, I am going to do my best. I mean, it's no convenient thing. I was hoping our meeting today would have been an obvious answer, and we all could have left that little meeting and go, oh, that's where we're going to find this $500,000. But it needs to become a priority, and if the mayor's not going to make it a priority, I mean, we need to. You know, I want to right now. I understand if others don't, everybody's got their own way they look at it, but it's just that area of town, but because of River Ridge, and we can also say that River Ridge should be doing this, and we need to pressure, and I have, and will continue, our state representatives to pressure them to try to squeeze money. I don't like the fact that our Lowit dollars go all over the county, and yet we're the ones providing every bit of service to that district. So there has to be an answer, and that's why I started by saying I'm low to even like bring it up, because I don't know what it is, but we need to solve this, or bad things will happen.
Scott, has there been any recent talks with River Ridge? I know there for a while they were pushing, they were contemplating get apparatus, and then, I mean, everything was back and forth. I don't know how things were left.
I don't know where they're left. I'm not privy to all those negotiations, of course, me being but a lowly councilman. But their stance up to this point, I believe, and if anybody knows more, you can chime in, they want to give like land that will give you a facility. But, I mean, that doesn't do any good for us for the year-to-year cost that this includes. So, I don't know where that is. I know that conversations that I've had with our state reps, they're kind of in agreement, but getting action at the state level, as you guys know, is not an easy. Ask the county how easy it was for the state to step in and fix their financial situation. So, I mean, I see fixes everywhere. Change the way we distribute Lowit, make them pay, make them have their own, I've even had conversations about where they create their own district, and then they could kind of manage it that way, and then we could just be like an assist. But those solutions don't have anything to do with me. So I'm just looking for a solution that has to do with me, so I plan on going through this book and trying, you know, because it needs to be done.
Even if we advocated for a raise the base type situation where, I mean, all of that property value, the starting assessed value is zero because it was government property. So if we raised the base on that to the first, $2 million and took the property taxes on that, and something would make it.
When they're saying $500,000, $500,000.
That would be our levy. Make everybody else is cheaper.
General numbers, what we discussed are general numbers.
So
where we could get them hired this year, near the end of the year, to equip them and put them in place, and we're talking about 6, was approximately $225, around that area, because you'd only be paying them for a month or two in their equipment. But then next year, that would add to the budget over 515 is what I wrote down.
Well,
So over
my-
$500,000.
My question, where I was going with this was insurance factored in? Because doesn't,
I think they did, yeah.
Not property and casualty insurance, that will probably go up if they have another apparatus out there in workers' comp.
workers' comp goes up higher with
Is the apparatus in the budget, or will you need to account for that as well? Do we know?
What did we say about an old, and I hate to yell it in the crowd like this, Joe, but this is for an engine, is what the apparatus would be, an engine. And at first, we could even do there's an old engine.
We got several.
Several in reserve that could be used just to get, a lot of their runs up there, and I don't want to talk for, what they do, but it's a health concern, and one of the fact, people in a machine that get hurt or whatever that case is. So I think, of course, they would then, I know the way it works, they would come back immediately, we need a new truck. Yeah, I know, but they could make do, like what they're using that for, it's my understanding that would be an acceptable apparatus, is one we already have in reserve.
Well, we
I
have-
thought we got a ladder truck and an engine for up there. When I met with Sean, that was what, and I thought they were already ordered.
The one they just spec'd out is the additional.
Good.
So it is, I don't know, I think it's in the budget, I think it's that $400,000.
It is.
It's
The lease payment.
Yeah.
The
That's
lease
the one
payment.
that's already gone out and they've
Yes.
already had,
So, yes.
okay, then we're good on that.
Yeah.
It'll be in November.
Right,
Yes.
soon, yeah.
Yes.
I do have one more question. And this has to do with probably the chief's job, not a council person's or anybody else's. But I believe we have two groups of fire. What do they call each house has their own team.
Oh, you have A, B, C.
Whatever. No, I understand that. I'm saying, don't we have two at the headquarters?
No.
We have
two at Station 1
Oh,
currently.
yeah.
two of them, okay.
Yeah.
If we have two at Station 1, if the need is much greater up at River Ridge, until we get something resolved, it seemed like we could move, you have two teams up at River Ridge or at Station 4, and then that would help be a safety valve, I guess, to let, again, I'm not the chief, I'm not doing that, but I understand the situation that you said, Scott, and if it's better to have two up there, two crews, that's what two crews, then maybe we should push and advocate.
Well, I can say one thing I
Short
did
term.
note that I made as I was thinking is I do want to have a conversation with the chief and any other involved people. I'm sure that at the new census that's getting ready to happen, I'm sure there's a formula for where fire stations need to be and like where they service. I'm not privy to what that is, but I'm sure that exists. And when was the last time we re-looked and reallocated where those things are? So that is one of the questions I have, is if I can't find magically money in here, can we do exactly kind of what you're saying there? But I don't know.
I can tell you during the annexation discussion, there was discussions about moving houses, trying to find optimal locations, and there was no follow-through to make that happen.
Well, we built two new ones, so hopefully we looked at where they should go.
No, we really didn't.
So we just
In fact, we did. Well, we took over the one in Allison Lane. That was not calculated at all. It was like, we don't want to take a house away from a location. Where that probably wasn't the optimal location. And the other property was given to us, so we're like, well, let's go ahead and go there.
62, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's not like I got we didn't have a study saying where would be the best location for these two. It's like, there's already one there,
Path of
and we
least
have a
resistance.
free piece of property here, so we put them there.
I got you.
Is there no way that we could mandate some money from River Ridge?
No.
I wish.
And one of the things you need to realize, River Ridge really does give us a lot of money. They really do. I mean, multi-million dollars comes because of what River Ridge does. Now, it's not the same as if it was all property-driven and our caps were reduced, but we do get a significant amount of money as a result of River Ridge. Plus, what they're doing to the rest of the economy in our city. Property values are bringing probably taxes down and reducing the cap impact. So it's not like it's a zero impact and zero revenue to the city and just an expense. I think somebody else mentioned if you move the base, then you're messing with the tax caps and our levy increase. So it's not a one-for-one increase.
Right.
It'll be shared throughout the county and may reduce tax rate by 0.0001%.
This is not thought out. I probably should just keep my mouth shut. We need to, I mean, to me, it seems like we have issues like this, and we're going to keep having them because our general fund can only go up so much, 3%. And when we're adding folks, which we need to add, I don't doubt, in many other departments as well, it's just not able to keep up with that. So I don't know if there would be a way or somebody would give any consideration to. I've always been against, and I will still be against using the special the tax dollars, not property tax dollars, the other dollars,
Income tax.
Payroll tax dollars to fund staff because it could, as Ed said, it can fluctuate. But if there's a way to structure something that says we're going to fund it, the crew up there, the station, whatever, or whatever, this group of people are going to be paid. They're going to be employees like everybody else. But if these payroll tax dollars drop, go away, whatever, they're already put on notice. That house will have to be idle or closed or whatever.
So you're saying you want to put in a trigger,
Something, but because the issue is if it's not, and my reservation always has been, we don't control the payroll tax dollars. The county is the one who puts that in place. And if a bunch of squirrely folks get hired in the county and they want to vote something down or change something, it directly affects that. That's why it's out of our control. So I'm just thinking if there's a way where we could say we're going to use those dollars, because those dollars most likely will be there, but we don't know for sure. But if they're not, then something's going to trigger it to say these are the folks that are going to be, laid off, whatever you call it. I don't know.
I don't think there'll be support there to lay off.
I don't want to lay them off either, but I don't want to.
I would say if they're hired in, we get in and we put up some sort of a hiring freeze for other departments or something, but, once they're hired.
I understand. I'm trying to think out of the box. That's all I'm trying to do.
Financially, we're in a strong position as we were last couple of years, I believe. And I'm always comfortable with hiring one or two people for different roles. I get nervous when we're hiring 5, 6, 7 people at a time and doing it year by year by year, because then I'm afraid that it's going to catch up to us in a bad way. But as far as trying to put 1 or 2 in the budget and taking a little bit of a chance, I would be comfortable with doing something like that. But finding 5 or 6 or 7, I don't know if you could find the money to make me comfortable at that level.
And not hire the 5 that's proposed. I just don't see it happening.
Not hire what, 5 that's proposed?
The 5 that's already been proposed, 5 employees that have already been proposed, and then hire additional on top of that. We might have to look at each of those positions or something, because I'm telling you, this stuff's tight, and it just scares me because it's all estimates. I'm sure she estimated very well. It just makes me nervous.
Is there any more discussion about adjusting the parks levy and the general fund levy? Do you have any discussion on that?
Shifting that edit?
Not the edit.
It's not the edit. It's to be the property tax revenue levy. You can move it to either or. Is that not correct?
Right, you'd have to take it away from one to get to another.
Right. But we're doing that now with the transfers over, correct?
No, not levy funds.
No, what we've been doing is using edit funds more and more to help with parks. Yeah. And it would just be a way to put it into the property tax levy so that it's kind of the foundation or floor of what the expenses are. Any other discussions?
Okay.
I know as Scott said he was gonna come to the budget, see if we can find the extra money. Question, probably no answer, is that police merit legal services budget, 9,000 last year, requesting in 9,000 this year. The fire merit spent 10,018, amended to 30,000 legal services 19, and requested 3810.
That would be a question for Vicki. Did you get a hold of any of the merit boards when you did the budget?
I emailed every one of them. I took, never heard back from police. I did check with Bob.
We can get
But on the fire merit, the legal services in the region.
Is that when they do their testing
Yeah.
for the list of new hires or something?
their
No.
testing too.
No, that's a different, that testing line item is a totally different testing.
That's not the-
Yeah.
So, let me see, looking at it, so they only spent 2,000 this year
So far,
so far.
I just got another bill.
Bills here.
So this is
Bill
from,
for the year.
this is till June.
Uh-huh.
So, there's, and we just had some, if I'm not mistaken, what we just went through with the application process and stuff.
There shouldn't be any cost this year for any hiring or testing or anything. I don't think it's good.
I mean, if you want to cut it, go ahead. I'm not advocating, I'm just saying,
You're saying some quite,
Yeah.
I didn't know.
because I do their budgets.
Sometimes when you put money in a budget, you can let people bill you at the end of the year. Well, I don't know who the attorney is, so
Well, it's Zach, and I will tell you this, I'm on him every month.
to bill you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, right there, you could cut that back down to 9 with the fire.
Well, I wouldn't go 9, because the problem is like if they have to go to Indianapolis for anything, you've got that fee in there. That's just not for, I was
going off 9 because that's what the police is operating off of.
well, but that's different.
Their legal.
They've always been a big difference in them. Always been a big difference in them. If you want to cut it, if you want to put it at 10, that's fine. If they have to do an additional.
The numbers just caught my eye. There was
Yeah.
a large discrepancy between the two, so.
But I mean, like I didn't do it on my own. I sent it to them. I had them, they approved it in a meeting, the discussion, so.
Did they say why they asked for $1,000 for business meals and entertainment this year?
Because it's always been, that was put in there last year.
Yeah, it looks like the 19 budget was just copied over to the 20.
Yeah, exactly.
But fire doesn't have, does the fire?
Police didn't ask for it. Fire
There was
merit,
something with the fire, which I remember was $1,000 for meals for like.
the prior president would take people out, and we would tell them not to for a Christmas party, and use their credit card and want reimbursement. So there came up a thing, because we were having all these issues with that, if you recall.
If there's
and
local,
because
yeah, I don't know if there's
it-
business going on at the time, or if it's a meal within 50 miles, it would need to be paid out of that
Yeah.
business meal and entertainment.
So actually, in all honesty, I think the 359 that they used last year was done during the interviews. Yeah. Yeah. So that's basically what that's there for. So, I mean, if you want to cut that down, that's fine too. But that's why that was put in there, and police merit has never asked for it. But when some other departments put in business and entertainment, that was just put in there because of what had happened prior, because I had no place to pay anybody. And Heather and I spoke about it in 2019, and that's what happened. But they don't have Christmas parties anymore. So if you want to cut that down, their legal services, that's fine. I have no problem with it. Okay. Who do you want to?
Okay? I'm putting numbers in a box. You just tell me what.
11. And if you want to cut the meals And entertainment, that's fine too. If you want to put 500, I mean, I don't care. Whatever y'all want to do. Now, I will tell you, up here at the top where you see secretary, the only reason there's 200 used in that secretary thing is because I've been doing their minutes and I don't charge.
You get what you pay for.
That's why
She can't by state statute.
Yeah.
Ha, ha,
So
ha.
I would suggest not taking that out.
So what did you, I'm sorry, I'm doing something
I
confusing.
wasn't, the
Taking it from
consensus
30,000
of the council, it was just, I had a
I have
question
no
about
problem, yeah.
discrepancy, so I didn't, if you guys are okay with it, cut it down from 30,000 to 10,000.
Is that a
I would
motion?
feel comfortable at 10. I really would.
Legal
They spent
services for
10,000
file
the
merit.
year before.
Pardon me, sir?
They spent 10,000
That's what
in
we're talking
2018,
about.
so.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Let's do it. They can always come back, they can always come back.
It's page 11. Did you find it?
Yeah, got it, thank you.
Yeah, I have no problem. And they won't
Did you
have
get that,
a
Heather?
problem.
Yep.
All right.
495 to go.
Are we cutting the business down to 500?
Well,
That's-
here's the deal,
Cut to
like I
500?
said, when they do interviews. So I think the police merit, I think the police department, and I'm not sure for this, but you'd have to go ask Kitty, but I think the police department has paid out of their budget for the interviews, because there was never anything put in their budget for that.
Isn't that, I think here like all day doing interviews, that's the
Yes.
thing, it's like,
It was just to keep
Yeah.
it going, I
Yeah.
remember them asking about
So
that.
if we cut it to 500, do you think that would cover their interview date?
I don't think they have that many interviews for next year, will they?
New hires.
New hire, yeah, so I think you need to leave it at 2,000, the new hires will be coming in.
They don't get compensated for
That's
that.
right.
No, but they get their meal.
They're here all day.
Yeah.
The meal for the board.
Yeah, they're here all day, I
Doing the
think.
interview.
They
They're
try
working
to
all
get
day.
them all through. They don't leave the
Joe
building.
said he'll back and cut it off.
Because.
They don't leave the building, I don't think. I think they're here all
No,
day.
it's all day, all of them are there.
So they
The
bring
other
some
thing about it
food
is
in.
too, they only get paid $100 for a month. So if they have 7 days that they're working, they get paid $100. So that's why they put
That
the,
thousand's not killing me.
and that's like I'm saying, I believe in the police merit, I believe that the police department paid for their, what did they pay?
Nathan?
Yes, sir. I assume that'll be the same. Question about Public Arts 271 fund. It's a line 1178 on my computer. It's not broken down to pages. It's Fund 271, if you can follow your
It's on page 26.
page 26.
Thank you.
Under,
So you're like, what?
it's just an observation, and maybe you can answer it, or maybe not, but when we put the money in originally a few years back for edit, it's close to $100,000 a year for the public arts. It was, the majority of it was supposed to be for art work, to help match grants, to help pay some of the artists for things. And if you look in 18, we spent $86,000. Last year we spent $134,000, and it's requested at $35,000. So it's just way down. But then if you look, supplies has gone, I say through the roof. We have a couple supply line items that are almost equal to the amount for the contractual services. And I'm just curious, was there any discussion of Ed about what projects are going to be in 2020 and how much money is needed for the artists? Do you recall any of that?
I don't remember.
So I have a comment on that.
Please.
To be revenue neutral, we wanted to budget the revenue that's coming in for next year.
Right.
There is, you can see the budget for 2019 is quite high because there are some projects that I assume we reappropriated the cash that was in that fund so that projects can happen if they need to happen without coming to you for an additional appropriation. I'm sure that all that money will not be spent next year. So once we know what the true cash balance is at the beginning of the year, I'm sure that there will be an additional appropriation to reappropriate all that cash at that time. So Dawn was aware that the budget needed to be cut some, knowing that we're going to come back and true it up once we know what the cash is at the time.
It's just like the other supplies, typically it's been about 8,000 a year, and now it's more than double to 17.5. And I'm just trying to, I don't sit in those meetings anymore, so I'm not trying to, it's just an observation, and it's like, again, the intent, for example, stationery, and printing, $8,000 for stationery, and printing, it's probably not stationery, probably printing, like, stuff. But
Right.
I'm
Signs or pamphlets or brochures or advertisements, things like that.
Yeah, and I know they've been tagged with having to pay for a lot of the maintenance of that building down there. They've had to pay for some of the large items in that building.
I believe that was one of the additionals that was requested under improvements for 19, yes.
Yeah.
And that's 142,000. I don't believe that was something about the air conditioner, I believe, right? And that has not been spent yet. So I'm not sure if that will be fixed at some point this year, or if that came
I think
in,
they're working on it.
if it's not, maybe not that high. So that cash will be available for next year.
That just raises concern. I would much rather the money go towards art instead of maintenance, and I don't need maintenance of the artwork. I mean maintenance of redevelopment's building, because redevelopment gets rent. The art commission does not get rent for that. Redevelopment does through Michael Wimmer. And I know it's awful easy for the administration to see there's balance and say, oh, let's go ahead and let you pay for it because you use the building. And I just don't like seeing the contractual services low when that's what initially it was for. I'm not proposing anything because it's her budget, I guess, Don's budget. But it's just an observation.
A lot of it has to do with just the timing of everything, with the building or the artist or with the projects.
Right, sure.
And that, it goes up, it just kind of go up and down. I know there's a plan for every dollar. I mean, we're planning every year out, and 1 year it's maintenance. And one of the things that has changed a little bit is we've partnered more with Main Street and trying to, and with like the wine walks, we're doing projects with the wine walk and the other Main Street type events, where I don't think we are partnered as much in the past.
I have something I want to bring up, the river stage. I was just looking at the contractual, so it's page 24, professional services. So I've been paid from that playing the band, and I'll tell you, that's our best paying gig of the year. We play for about an hour and a half, and we make like $800. We make that playing in a bar somewhere for the whole night. And sometimes even bringing our own sound guy, which they provide the sound guy. And you play for an hour and a half and he pays $800. I just think that they need to negotiate a little better, because they're paying two bands tonight, so usually that's when there's two bands. And they're getting great music, and I love it. I'm not against the river stage. I think it's wonderful, but to me, just looking at that number, if I understand this right, they spent 113 so far, and there's 164 budgeted, and I don't think there's a lot left. That's kind of over.
I think it's because summer's coming to an end. And that's all done through the Parks Authority as far as negotiating those contracts.
Okay.
I don't think there's any more events, is there?
No.
I think it's about done.
So they won't spend the rest of the money.
I'm not sure if all the bills have been paid,
Those men didn't.
but my guess is it will be.
We'll ask for an additional.
When you work, how long do you
I believe there's a
normally from the
transfer
day
on
that
your
you
list.
perform to the day that you get your check? Is it usually pretty quick?
Well, yeah, the way that the claims were dependent on the contract, they usually get paid half at the time of the contract and then the other half after they play.
Right, sometimes it's the same day.
So the ones that are playing here at the end of the summer, we won't see those claims until later.
We actually,
They love playing, it's a wonderful place to play.
we actually have talked about that because if you look at any band that plays there, that event that they play is where they bring their photographer. It's where they bring, everybody to do their promo videos because it's such an excellent venue and there's such a crowd every weekend. We could probably afford to scale back on what we put out to bring those people in because they'll come in anyway. And we've had those conversations too, and I think that's something that we're cognizant of. I think there has been some discussion in changing how we do all of that as a whole, and finding where we want to be is kind of where the Parks Department is right now.
I think we paid, I could be wrong, but I believe the highest paid band was $28,000.
I have no idea.
I think that's
That
about
was
right.
like God Country special.
That's a big name. Yeah.
That,
And I think
the
it's
majority of that was just to bring the artists here, though. That wasn't for all the others.
Right, I mean, that was just the one.
Yeah.
To your point, and the only, in my opinion, the only way to address that is if you come in here and you say, I think that's too much, or you cut it, and then they have to negotiate to fit that budget, or come back for additional appropriation.
Another band.
But didn't that one have a special sponsor?
I mean,
Yeah, we do have specific sponsors for specific events.
we pay for it out of
The claim was, the
Well,
claim
yeah.
came out of part.
The claim comes out of that line item, but the sponsorship goes back into the budget, and it's part of the projected revenue. So, I mean,
All right, folks, we have about 10 minutes. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the budget? Heather, give us a schedule again for what's left, what we have to do, if you can.
there are a couple of other things while she's getting her schedule.
I've got it here. So the public hearing date is September 16th with an adoption date of October 7th. So to have everything in the clerk's office to make sure I have all your information correct, it would be nice to have by the 11th or 12th to get in the packet.
So that's our next meeting,
Yes.
right? So the public hearing is our next meeting,
Yes.
and the adoption is to be followed the next
Yes.
one. Okay.
Well, if we want to make some changes, we need to be on the
If
ball
we
and
make
doing it
changes, we need to make them like right
now.
now.
There were a couple other things we talked about last time. The potential of starting to contribute for the HSAs for the civilian employees. That estimate, if 35% of our civilian employees went to the HSA, that's going to be $55,000 and change. I don't think it would be that high year one, but that's a possibility. It could be higher. I don't know if that's a discussion we want to continue to have. And then
I think that should happen.
I think we should have that company because that will bring our insurance costs down for the.
Hopefully it would. Yeah, it may take some time to see that, but I don't know if we need to budget for 35%. If we contributed just to the employees who have HSAs now, it'd be about $20,000. I don't know if we budget 35.
What percentage of the police and fire that were given the opportunity to get the seeded money in their HSA, how many of them chose
to
do
join
that?
that?
I don't have that information right off the top of my head.
Would you
don't
say it was
know.
30%?
I would probably, I think there was more on the fire side than there was on police.
More than 30%?
No, I mean, there was
Oh.
amount of
More than 30.
change.
I thought it was more than 30.
I think the number between police and fire was a pretty big difference. The people that jumped over, fire department jumped over.
And we can always, all of the, especially this is all going to be speculative. We can budget a number and come back and have to increase it regardless of what we do.
Did we, to get to that 30% number, was that something you just pulled out of the ether, or were we advised by?
I think 35%.
Nathan asked me
Well,
years
now they
ago to figure out what it would be at 35% and 75%.
Well, we just adjusted, what was that adjustment we just made?
20,000.
20,000.
So we could
I'd be
budget
fine.
20,000.
I would support that as well.
Yeah.
With that,
You would
And
need
that
more
would-
than 20,000 for
20,500 is what we would have to start at, and that's if nobody else moves over.
Right.
I don't think we could safely say that nobody else would move over. I think maybe 35,000, because it's about $1,000. It's $1,000 contribution per family.
Right.
Go to the HSA.
So is this paid out of the health insurance under the council, this, what we're talking about?
There would be a separate line item that would
Under-
be added to the council's budget on page 7.
Right.
That would be called HSA contribution, and then you would budget it from there.
Okay.
So keep that separate so you can see what you've been spending on it.
Might be 35, I mean, I'm okay with 35.
I think 35 is a good number.
35?
I think there's consensus for 35.
So we already found 20, I'll find that other 15,000.
Well, and we were 54,000 under,
We had 54,000 left.
plus the
And then we
20.
added 20 to it to 75, and now 35, so now we're at 40 over.
You're with that, Heather?
Yep.
Okay, good.
And then there was another request that came through from the finance department.
Do you want me to bring that up?
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm running this late.
We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Right, just a second. We'll take a 5-minute recess before we do that, but we got to finish this here.
So basically, the finance department would like to make a pitch to kind of bring up some of their employees as far as payroll increases.
So to get the staff up to the 35% would be $17,305 out of the general fund.
What's that?
There's 8 total, so this would be
So
6
we're talking about your department.
in the finance department, yes.
Gotcha.
And
This
this
only
would-
affects 6 people.
In fact, yeah.
Right, because we all have over 10 years of experience, and we deal with 17 departments rather than just one individually like most other. We have $140 million in cash transactions each year for both receipts and disbursements, and we have 4 governing boards, which is Wastewater Drainage Council and the Redevelopment. We have an average of 11 check runs a month, which is over 19,000 claims in the past 12 months, which is an average of about 1,600 each month that we have to audit and go through. He says he's many of them. We have 23 money market accounts, 21 active CDs, 9 checking accounts, and over $100 million in assets. We have $11.5 million payroll each year, and this year we had 462 employees in the summer and down to around 400 in the winter. So we have a lot going on in the finance department. So I just kind of felt like I wanted to advocate for my people and get them to the 35%.
Why now, not when you were doing the budget?
I feel like when I'm doing the budget, that's more of administration, and we were told by administration to stay within the budget and only have the performance increase of the 3%. And I feel like other departments were able to bend your ear a little bit, and this was my chance.
So in the budget, there's a $15,600 performance increase pool.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that-
part of the 3%, plus
Right.
there were a couple that were included in Liz's equity that would be part of the equity amount.
So basically, we add these together, right? I mean, 15,000 and 17,000
Right.
would be to increase your budget.
Yes.
I would, like I said earlier with firemen, I would encourage us to run that up the flagpole with the mayor because, or the administration, whoever he wants, because if that's, assuming it gets approved, then other department's going to come back and say, wait a minute, and then we can just say, no, that's what he asked for.
How does your salaries compare to, the HR consultant who does the work to see if we're in,
She
within?
looks at the amount of years that you've been in that job position,
Right.
and not necessarily the years of experience.
So
Like
she did-
like me personally, I have 17 years of experience in government work, and I'm not anywhere near the 35%. Well, I'm at 29%, I believe. And if you would hire me off the street, I would hope that you would hire me for the 35%, which is what you all allow now.
So
with
this
the
would
new
get
pay
everybody
grade.
up to the 35%?
Yes.
And if you look at your master bank list that was distributed tonight, it looks like the finance department, through the work that under Heather, has made us $1.3 million in our investments this year, for which they get no credit for. They just do that because it's the right thing to do to be a good steward of the money. Yeah, but we never did that
And
before.
it's not
Heather was
just
the
me
controller.
that does that. I do have a team behind me that helps me out quite a lot, so.
But before Heather was the city controller, we didn't have those investments. We didn't get that type of return on the money that we just have sitting in the bank.
So are you advocating for her a raise?
I'm advocating for their department.
Does this impact you? This will impact you as well, the 17,000?
Yes.
How much of it is you?
About, I think it's a 6% raise from this year. Let me get my sheet.
It was about $3,000, I thought.
Yeah, 2,600.
Yep.
But that would get everybody to the 35%.
The total of
That's how you came to
17,304,
that
which includes Social Security and IMPRES.
Okay.
So is this request still on top of your 3%
No,
performance pool, or?
No. that would just bring everybody to the 35. I do have a couple in the office that are already over the 35, so they would still get their 3%.
So you would take your performance pool request out?
No, it would be an increase to that.
That's what I asked. She's got 15 for performance, and she's asking for 17 more.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know what,
I'm going to say, I support it to get to the 35%. I don't have a problem with it.
I do too. I don't know what kind of motion I need to make to ask for that, but
Where are you going to find it?
in the $54,000 that was in the cushion.
Just to move it along, that's a
So I
motion, and I'll
make a
second that
motion
motion.
to
Let's take a vote and see if that's on there. or not.
Increase the performance increase pool by the number stated, 17,304.65.
I don't know.
Comment?
Yeah, sure, comment.
I just think, I mean, in fairness, I think the mayor needs to be aware, because he's gonna get hit with other people, and he just needs to, he needs to be aware of that and know that. If he knows it, that's fine, but if he doesn't, then I think it's only fair.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor,
Well,
signify.
I made a motion, did you?
Yeah, I second.
You seconded,
Just
I'm
to move
sorry.
it along. So, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So go ahead and make that change for the next
I will.
budget
Thank you.
meeting.
I appreciate that.
Anything else, Heather? So, we have, at the next meeting will be our public hearing.
Yes. And I'll have all the adjustments that you just made.
If there's anything else, I'd ask you please reach out to Heather or the council and try to move this along, because there's not a lot of time to make a lot of changes.
Right, I would need
And
to,
I appreciate emails going out, because I don't like stuff just
No.
coming out.
Next one is 6 o'clock on the 16th. Is that right?
7, it's normal council meeting.
Oh, it's just a normal council meeting. We're not
Just
going to do
in the normal
okay.
council meeting.
Do we need to have a budget? We got to have a budget meeting before that. Let's
Can
make a
we-
budget meeting at 6.
Can we schedule one, and if we don't do it, we can cancel? I think we'll need it.
Yeah, let's just schedule it for 6 o'clock on the 16th before our next. That's the next council meeting, right? The 16th.
Okay.
You need to make a note to advertise that.
Yeah, let's plan on that just so we can have some final discussions to see if there's any movement in the budget.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So budget at 6, council at 7.
Yep, budget at 6, council at 7. With that, we're going to go ahead and end the budget meeting, and we're going to take a 5-minute recess until the city council meeting.